Apex Online Racing is sponsored by Elgato, who created this lovely stream deck. For more information about the stream deck, the link is in the description below.
Konnichiwa and a warm welcome to the Suzuka International Racing Course for the penultimate round of Season 17 of the Hype Energy Apex Online Racing F1 season on PS4, and indeed the penultimate race of the F1 2010 era before we head on to a new game towards the end of June. Well, it's been quite the season, certainly dominated by the two Renault drivers, and tonight is a second opportunity for TRL Schnitzel to seal a championship that he nearly got at Monza last week. Well, let's have a quick look at this Suzuka circuit. It is, well, an iconic circuit. So many real-life title deciders here. Who can forget Mika Hakkinen winning his 2 titles at this very track in the late 90s, and then Kimi Raikkonen's last lap lunge to win the race a few years after that, and of course Senna and Prost clashing in 2 years in succession, one as teammates, and then very much the basis of the Legends inclusion on the F1 2019 game when they clashed in 1990, which decided the championship that year, when Senna decided he was going to go for a gap and wasn't going to stop whatsoever. So then, let's have a quick look at Suzuka. This 18 corner circuit doesn't offer too many overtaking opportunities, but the only figure of 8 circuit on the calendar is certainly one all the drivers enjoy. And the exit out of the Casio triangle, the last chicane, will be absolutely vital for defending or gaining positions between turns 18 and 1, because outside of that, there's not too many other places you can overtake. Perhaps a run from 130R is another opportunity to overtake there, but we shall see as we just have a look at the home straight. And a quick reminder of the championship standings then, going into this penultimate round of the season. It is Dominic Hoffman, aka TRR Schnitzel, who heads into the penultimate round of the season with a 48-point advantage, and nothing less than a near miracle will prevent him from winning the championship, especially given the unfortunately low town that we are going to have this evening. So in terms of the parameters of this title being decided, the simple fact is Lucas has to win, and if Dominic Hoffman finishes higher than 10th, he will be champion because of his superior win record. So Dominic Hoffman only has to finish in the top 9 in this race to be crowned the champion. But stranger things have happened in Formula 1, and well, if we get this championship going to the wire in the last round of Brazil next week, that would be, well, in my view, one of the most shocking things I've ever seen. Now, looking at the rest of the drivers' standings, well, there's a tight battle going on for the runners-up spot, if indeed that is the case, with very few points separating Lucas, Otmar and Michelangelo, who has been on resurgent form recently, still looking for his first win of the season, although has had a great run of podiums recently. And then his teammate Roy, well, had a pretty difficult start to the season, didn't he? But has now made himself up into the top 5 of the championship. Well, we may as well have a quick look at the Constructors' Championship, because, well, it was settled last week at Monza. 97-point gap now to Williams. Williams and McLaren can no longer catch the absolutely rampant Renault drivers of Hoffman and Otmar, who from the very beginning of this season really put their stamp on the Constructors' Championship with 2 1-2s this season to start off, and then since then, well, many podiums between them. And, well, they were just too good for the rest, weren't they? Absolutely far too good for the competition. But now we're going to make our way then onto the track and seeing what's going on for this, as usual, 18-minute qualifying session. And, well, as anyone knows who goes on this particular track, it is certainly one of the best circuits. And in terms of the tyre compounds, slightly overcast conditions here. We have the super soft and medium tyre compounds here. And who can forget last season? when this man, VGIA Lucas, was on clearly the best strategy, but then had an absolute disaster in the pit lane. The Haas crew not finding his tyres, and that completely denied him any chance of winning and probably ended his championship aspirations at that very point. So we watching go into the hairpin. As early lap times are 1:28.603. In terms of the pit strategy, well, we're expecting a one-stop here if it's a dry race, as it is at most circuits on this game. Well, Lucas, he'll be going into this race perhaps in a relaxed mood because he knows that the likelihood is he's not going to be able to prevent Schnitzel from winning championship, but he will give it all. He will at least want to, you know, win a race here, at least give Schnitzel something to think about maybe going into the next era of Apex Online Racing at this particular tier. So I think we'll stick with Lucas for the first flying run, and let's see what tyres is he on. He is on the soft compound, so that should be interesting to watch. As we see the Ferris wheel on the left spinning around. Oh no, straight back into the pit, so we will not join him. Let's have a look at Schnitzel. Schnitzel is he on a lap at the moment? Let's have a look. This looks like an out lap to me. Either that or a very slow lap at 1:28.0 for Stave Frosty. Schnitzel heading for a line. This looks like a flying lap. Yes, it is. So here we go then. We will go on board with the current championship leader and surely champion-elect here in this particular tier. It is a shame we've only got 11 drivers here, but we're going to cover this as best we can. We've still got some great drivers out there. Now, through the opening sector then, very sweeping S-bends here. The most important part of the track, in my view. If you mess up these S-bends, there is pretty much no way you can regain the time back as Flying Pin goes slightly quicker. Then, heading up on the Dunlop curve towards a bit of traffic ahead. Sauber gets out of the way through the Degners. Very easy to cut there and get invalidation. Watch out for those in particular for time penalties during the race. One of two places where you can get time penalties quite easily. Then heading down towards the hairpin, which will offer some overtaking opportunities if one driver doesn't particularly go aggressive on defending to the car behind. And now heading down towards the Spoon Curve through 200R, which is a lesser known named corner on this track, it has to be said. Through the Spoon Curve then goes Schnitzel on the soft compound at the moment. Then heading up, and he's run really wide there, and that will scrub his lap time completely. So that's the end of that. Let's see who else is out there. Lee Finley is on a lap at the moment. He's gone for the super soft straight away. And he will see the Renault has pulled to the side, so a rare mistake from Schnitzel, but he's got plenty of time, just over 11 minutes of the session to go. So let's see what Lee Finley can do. Lee Finley, you know, he's had some good results this season. He's got 4 points scores to his name so far this season, and that's pretty good going from him, and Lee puts it up into P3. So at the moment, I think we'll be heading towards the, going into the 26s, especially from some of those in the top 4 of the championship. So all top 5 of the championship are here this evening, so that is good news. I think we could get a classic race between those 5. It may be one of those races where the top 5 run away with it, and then there'll be a huge battle below them for the rest of the points. So hopefully we don't get any retirements, so we have all 11 races, because we don't have that many races to start with. But it is the twilight of this particular game, of course. Not long until the new game comes out, so I think some drivers are maybe just perhaps going on their holidays just a little bit early, getting themselves fresh for the new era of the game, and who knows when the new season will start. But we're going to enjoy 2 races here at Suzuka, and then and Lucas has left the session. Lucas has left the session. Well, I hope we can get him back in, because if we don't, this championship battle is over before we even start the race. So hopefully it's just a disconnect and he can get back in. I'm sure there are some spare invites available as Lee Finley goes up, but he's on an in-lap. So let's see who else is out there. Casper setting the early pace of 1:27.285. I think we'll have a look at the reigning champion Michael, who will be enjoying the final 2 races of his reign before handing over the crown to either TRR Schnitzel or Vijay Lucas. I'm just going to have a quick look at the chat just to see if there's any indication that we may have a restart of some kind if Lucas can't get in, but no indication of that yet from race control. So let's keep on board with Michael. The Williams going far quicker than a real life Williams at the moment in the hands of the reigning champion Michael, who Perhaps the shorter season format not suiting him as much as it did the full season last time, where his consistency really shone through for him to win the Season 16 championship. But he's been on a great run recently. Very resurgent form from Michael, having had a very patchy first 4 races. He's followed that up with 4 podiums in a row, a third in Britain and then 3 second places in a row to complete the European portion of the season in Germany, Belgium and Italy respectively. Slightly beaten by his teammate Roy last time out 2 weeks ago in Monza. It was a fantastic performance. Or I should say Schnitzel. That was Belgium. Now the one thing I do want to know, because we haven't had any. Oh, and look at that! Our resident Casper, the friendly weatherman, has indicated that it's going to be a wet race, which would be our first wet race of the season. So that is really, it's going to be an interesting test for the drivers. And once again, we've seen this plenty of times in recent races. The 2 Williams drivers helping each other out with a little bit of slipstream to aid them with as much track and lap time as possible. So Michael will head for the line, and what's it going to be for Michael? Going as narrow as he can, and oh my goodness, he has absolutely smashed it. Now, of course, the early lap times from the others were somewhat banker times, but that is a statement early on, almost into the 25s. And that is something that will give the likes of Schnitzel, Jan and Lucas something to think about. What will happen here is Michael will push really hard, and he's going to give his teammate Roy the exact same treatment. Now let's just have a look at Lucas quickly. Lucas has gone back onto the super soft, so he has abandoned that soft plan, and I think Schnitzel's probably done the same. Yes, this is going to be a very serious qualifying session, you would think. Just over 7 minutes of the session, and there are a few eyebrows being raised about the low turnout for this tier, and yeah, I have to agree, it's a bit of a shame. It's quite a low turnout, but you know, I'm not going to dwell on it too much. I think we can concentrate on the drivers who are here, and they will try and give us a great show. You know, it's not always about the numbers, it's about the quality, and I think you'll agree the drivers in the top 5 of this championship are of a very high quality based on the last 2 seasons. So Roy getting a good tow once again. Ooh, slightly too late getting around him. That may have compromised his entry into Montpellier just a little bit, but it should be okay. So Roy heading for the line. What's this going to be? Slightly scruffy exit onto the final straight. And yes, he did lose a little bit of time. I thought he did. It looked just a little bit of a scruffy end to that sector 3. But still, it's a Williams 1-2 at the moment. Shades of the Belgian qualifying session 2 races ago at the moment. So now we'll have a look at the likes of Lucas, who's on a lap. And what about Schnitzel? Schnitzel is out there as well. Heading towards the hairpin. Quite sometimes an unsighted corner here, especially if you're following another car. So getting the braking down. So we're going to compare the times of Schnitzel and Lucas as they go around. So the top 2 in the championship, yet to set anywhere near a representative time, especially in Schnitzel's case, a 1:47, after absolutely messing up his opening run. Running wide here. Oh, he's done it again. He's gone onto the gravel again. Look, he's got a bit of dirt on the tyres, and once again, Schnitzel struggling with the exit to the spoon curve. So maybe running a little bit less downforce. It could be one of the reasons. With that mistake, I would be very surprised if he gets ahead of the 2 Williams, but let's see what he does. Is he going to pull into the pits? And seeing some things in the air. I don't know if that was a spot of rain, and that's good enough for 3rd though. And Lucas, let's have a look at Lucas now. Lucas heading for the line through the final chicane, the Casio triangle, where Senna and Prost collided in 1989. And Lucas heading for the line, the qualifying specialist, and actually it's only 1:26.968, so not the best lap from Lucas, and that is not what he wants if he's going to keep this championship battle alive at this stage. So your top 3, Michael, Roy and Schnitzel. Jarno currently on a 1:26.966. I'm sure he can find a little bit more time than that, so it's quite close. We have 7 drivers in the 26s at the moment, and Casper now going round. Is Schnitzel going for another one? Does he have enough fuel to do that? Let's have a look. I wouldn't imagine so. He's running out of fuel already. Doesn't want to go round again, so he's probably trying to rush back to the pit. So Casper's definitely on a flying run. let's keep an eye on Casper. And who else is out there? Lee Finley is out there in the other Haas car. Have a quick look at him. It's through the opening part of the track again. Oh, and actually had to go off the power for a brief second because he was drifting out to the right. 27.454 at the moment. So in terms of the gap, well, it's just over 2/10 covering the top 4 and the second covering the top 8. So a typically tight qualifying session in this tier of Apex Online Racing on PS4. Let's have a look at Casper. Casper heading through. Is he going to go into the pits? Yes, he does. I think Schnitzel will follow right behind him as well. Is Lee Finley going to carry on? And what about the other Sauber? Yellow's somewhere. Yellow's may have been saved. Frosty making a mistake somewhere. And Kieski, noticeably, has moved up to 5th in the Force India ahead of Jarno. So that's a decent qualifying session from the Force India driver so far. So if he could stay there on to row 3, I think he'd be delighted with that. And Flying Finn is quietly going about his business in one of the 5 Ferrari powered cars here today. The young Finn up into 4th position. So the likes of Jarno and Lucas, I think they will have more time to find, especially in Lucas's case. He needs to find more time. He needs to at least get ahead of Schnitzel to put some pressure on him. Because with this low turnout, the probability of Schnitzel winning championship is ever higher. May have to hope that in this heavy rain race that he makes some sort of huge error which stops him scoring points. Now, of course, with it being a heavy rain race, at least at the start, we could have some compromised setups which may be slowing some of these drivers down. So that's something to certainly think about here at Suzuka. Very tough track in the wet here. So they're going to have to be running some more downforce. So that may be affecting some of their straight line speed, especially on the flat out sections of the main straight and the run up from the spoon curve to the end of 130R into the chicane, which is a flat out corner in the dry. So these times may not be a true indication of the true pace of the likes of Jarno and Lucas, but you know they'll be wanting at least to get ahead of the likes of Flying Finn and Kieski. Only 2 races of this F1 2018 era to go, and well, perhaps not so much this season, but you know, last season, season 16, we saw some spectacular races in season 16. Some of the best races that I've ever commentated on. So I'll certainly remember that fondly. I mean, in terms of the game itself, perhaps some of the drivers won't be remembering it so fondly, but I think it's a natural cycle of any yearly sports title. I think people just eventually get fed up with it by the end, no matter how good or bad it is. And then, you know, we'll go, oh my goodness, what just happened there? Was that lag? Like the 2 Williams teammates almost came a cropper. Just over a minute of session to go. Schnitzel is out there. Jarno is out there, and Lucas as well. There's not enough time for Williams to do their usual slipstream trick, unless Roy is going to try and chase down Michael and get on there. Schnitzel is up ahead of him in sector 1 at the moment, through the sweeping S-bends. Such a glorious, when you've got the car planted, when you've got the setup right, this is a glorious section of corners to go through. The car just feels so good. When you've got it wrong though, it's an absolute nightmare. Very important to get a good setup here, perhaps more so than most tracks. Through the Degmans, very smooth from Schnitzel so far. He's got 1.5 tenths to find to get onto the front. And Kieski goes onto the front row of the grids, just splitting the 2 Williams. So Kieski really, I mean, this is taking advantage of me with the absences, but this is by far the best qualifying session I've seen from him. Schnitzel heads through the spoon curve. Now, will he get the exit right this time? He's really struggled with this exit in this qualifying session. And, oof, yeah, runs wide, but no, this time just on the limit. That's perfect. Heading up towards 130R then. This will be the last lap of his session. Can he get onto the front row of the grid at least, as he bids to win the Season 17 championship? Through the final chicane he goes, and now he's going to try and take as narrow a line as he can on the inside. Car skipping a little bit, and Schnitzel goes 3 tenths faster than Michael. But here come the 2 Williams drivers. What are they going to do? No, Roy is actually the only one who's going to cross the line. Roy goes P2. What about Lucas? Lucas heading for the line now, and it's only P7. And Jarno heading through the Casio triangle, on the final lap. So is this going to be a Renault 1-2 on the front row, which would be a perfect situation for the championship lead if it were to be that? But no, only P6. Flying Finn is on a lap. No, 3 seconds down. Anyone else out there who can threaten any of those drivers? Casper still going for it. Oh, look at this. It looks like the two Hasses are going ahead. Hugh Golf goes up to 7. Lucas pushed down to P8. It's been a pretty difficult session, so he must be running more setup for the wet race. I'm hoping that pays off. So Casper, right on the back of Lee Findlay, gets an excellent toe, but can he get it slowed down with that extra overspeed? And he does. That looked like it was perfectly executed by Haas. Casper heads for the line. What's this going to be for Casper? Heads for the line. It's P5. Knocks Flying Finn and Jarno down. So a really good session. There are a few surprises cropping up in this session, and that is the end of the session. So TRR Snitzel having a perfect session, but is he running more of a dry setup than some of his rivals in this race? We will find out shortly. There hasn't been a single wet race in this tier this season, so it's going to be unknown territory for all 11 of these drivers. But Schnitzel doing exactly what he needs to do. Far more than the bare minimum. If the race finishes like this, he will win the championship with absolute aplomb. Just going to wait for the last retirement as Snitzel runs out of fuel. And it is gear 1 on the steering wheel, and he'll be hoping for P1 at the end of the race, having taken the very same position in this qualifying session. So let's go through the qualifying result as I get some very pointless experience points. Maybe they should have experience points for commentary. I'd have plenty by now. So Snitzel taking pole position in the penultimate race of the season, ahead of the two Williams of Roy and Michael. Kieski with his best qualifying result of the season. Casper, typically confident performance from him as one of the best midfield drivers. P5, Flying Finn in P6, Jarno in 7th, Hugh Golf in 8th, and Lucas ending up in P9 in the end on the 5th row. Lee Finley in 10th and starting at the back of the grid. And perhaps if it had been a dry race, that would have probably been the best place to be. The only driver with fresh choice of tyres, but he will start P11. 127.568 on the mediums isn't actually too bad going. He wasn't that far off. So just a reminder of the permutations. If Dominic Hoffman, aka TRR Schnitzel, finishes higher than 10th position in the points, he will be the champion regardless of what VGI Lucas does. Lucas has to win the race regardless of what else happens to have any chance of taking the championship battle to the final round at Interlagos next week. So I hope the fine citizens of Japan have their brollies, because it is absolutely bucketing it down here. A very classic wet race in Japan. Seen many over the years. I think the first one I remember was the '94 Japanese Grand Prix, which was actually at the Fuji International Circuit, and you know, Damon Hill winning there. I mean, the conditions were appalling that day. There is no way they would run in that now. It'd be a safety car all the way, and they probably wouldn't even run under that. Such as the safety conscious F1 these days, which is not a bad thing in my book. You know, we don't want to see drivers get badly injured, and of course this was the circuit where in mixed conditions, very sadly, Yulta Bianchi lost his life a few years ago. So, you know, always a reminder of the safety of Formula 1 being so paramount, regardless of anyone else's feelings for this particular motorsport. So TRR Schnitzel, heavy rain conditions, so it'll be the blue striped heavy rain tyres. So unknown territory. Schnitzel, well, he had great pace in qualifying. Was that because he was running more of a dry setup? We will see if that is the case, or was that generally just incredible pace? On the lap that he put in, he looked so focused. You know, he had a few difficult laps early on, but once he got into the groove, he took pole position by, you know, for this tier standards, a fairly hefty margin. So everyone will be on those wet tyres, of course, unless anyone has decided to make some sort of ludicrous gamble. But no, everyone on the wet tyres. So Schnitzel in the best place to be. He won't have, if he gets the start right, he won't have any spray to deal with, unlike those behind him. Those who are starting down in 7th, 8th and 9th and further, well, the amount of spray they're going to get going to be an absolute nightmare for them. Well, Lucas, well, it was at this track where, you know, his championship aspirations ended last season thanks to that nightmare of a pit stop, which was of no fault of his own. And once again, this is maybe where his title ambitions end once again. As the grid begins to form up, let's head to the front. We have the current championship leader with the top two in last season's championship right behind him. Williams have been in such good form, both of them, in the second half of the season. If they'd been in that kind of form from the start, who knows how the title battle would have shaped. It may have been a different story. But Tierras Schnitzel is 27 laps away from being the season 17 AOR champion. But it's a long way to go. This is going to be a grueling race. If this rain lasts the whole time. So here we go then. Get a good camera view. Schnitzel versus Roy on the front row. Lights out and away we go. Watch out for Michael on the second row. It looks like a decent start from Schnitzel. Wheels spinning a little bit. And look, watch out, Flying Finn looking for a move on Kieske on the inside. And that's a pretty smooth start. And it looks like the Haas of Casper going around the outside of Force India up to fourth position already. I'm not seeing many cars because of this camera view. So let's get this up there. Lucas in the pack at the moment. So Schnitzel getting the absolute perfect start to through. And look at that, Jarno and Kieske going side by side in the battle for fifth, right behind. And well, the Force India is plummeting down the order and behind Flying Finn, trying to battle Hugo. He's lost 3 positions already. Lucas has moved up to P6 already, so a really important start for Lucas. Seems to have avoided any trouble so far. And Kieske, well, he's dropped 3 positions from that promising row 2 position as they head into the hairpin for the first time. Let's see if there's any movement going on down the order. Hugo, oh, the 2 Saubers making contact. Hugo and Stave Frosty, slight contact from Stave Frosty at the back. May have picked up a bit of damage there, and that will not please the Sauber team if that is the case, because, you know, this is a race where everyone should be able to score some points if they merely finish. As we see Flying Finn riding onto the back of the Pink Panther ahead. Look how slowly they're going through the spoon curve. Not able to get any traction down, but we'll head out towards the front because Michael is getting close to his teammate already at this stage of the race. And Schnitzel has already got nearly a 2-second gap out of the front. Well, that is an incredible start from the championship leader. And the 2 Williams are really actually struggling to get any sort of traction going. Schnitzel is sayonara to the rest of the grid as Flying Finn goes into the pits. Is that going to be an early pit stop for the Ferrari driver already? Is that damage for Flying Finn? And yes, it is, unfortunately, in the Scuderia, the only Ferrari running in this particular race. It's a nightmare start. And given the small amounts of cars, likelihood of a safety car, it's going to put pay to any chance of him getting into the points if it stays like this, but there's a long way to go. So let's have a look at Casper. Casper up to a superb 4th. He's got multiple F1 tier race winner Jarno Opma right behind him. He'll be keen to get ahead of him and then take the fight to the 2 Williams drivers ahead, because at the moment Schnitzel is running away with this. And Lucas is in this mini train as well. Let's have a look at Jarno. Will he make a move? So the battle isn't really for the lead at the moment. The battle is for the other 2 podium positions. Roy, if anything, is holding this small queue of cars up. Lucas just behind. It looks like Hugh Golf has made a move just behind. Yep, Hugh Golf and the 2 Saubers battling with the Force India of Kieske. So where is... Yeah, Stay Frosty drifting wide slightly. Doesn't want to do that too many times. Grass is absolutely lethal at this track, even in the dry. And in these conditions... Goodness, how bad are these conditions for these drivers? And I did say early on that this might be somewhat of a 2-tier race, but Casper sort of breaking that mold a bit, really competing with the best in this tier at the moment. And he's one of only 2 drivers who have scored, 3 drivers I should say, who score points at every round. Schnitzel continues to build a huge advantage. 3 seconds already on lap 3. This is already turning into something of a Schumacher at Barcelona in 96-esque performance. I mean, he is gone, absolutely gone. So Michael, you know, the Williams team may have to think about making some sort of swap. Oh, and look at that, Hugo going very wide. at the opening corner, struggling traction. If anything, these conditions are getting worse. But we're going to switch our attention then to the battle for the podium places. As Jarno biding his time, trying to look for a move maybe on Casper, but Casper is actually beginning to get a bit closer to the reigning champion Michael. So that Haas car looks really well set up for these heavy rain conditions at the moment. We're only on lap 3. If you put a slight wheel wrong here, your race is going to be over very quickly. Oh, and here comes Jarno with a lunge to the inside. Ricardo lick the stamp and send it. But the better traction of Casper on the racing line meant he was able to retain that position, but Jarno has a little bit more pace on this lap. Casper going very defensive as they head into Spoon Curve, and now Jarno looking for a move at Spoon Curve. Oh, slight contact, and Casper runs slightly wide. That's going to allow the two Williams to get slightly away from them. I'm not sure we're going to see much of Schnitzel in this race if he keeps flying away like this. It's an absolutely sensational pace he's got so far. Well, you know, we thought maybe he was running a dry setup, but no, I think his pace is simply being this good. He must have been putting a lot of work into this, taking this utterly seriously, not taking anything which granted, even with the points advantage he had in the championship. He sets another fastest lap of the race, a 1:42.318. No one is anywhere near that pace at the moment. So can Jarno get ahead? Casper will be getting a bit of a tow from the car ahead. Kinski's now fallen 5 positions. And oh my goodness, here we go. Casper running wide. Side by side will Jarno and Casper go. Let's hope they don't make contact as they head through the S-bends. And that is a really well executed overtake. No DRS, of course, in these wet conditions. Jarno moves up to 4th. And now Casper, well, he'll be hoping he can hold Lucas up for a little bit. But you know, Casper at the moment has a huge gap to Hugh Golf. So in terms of being the best of the rest, in terms of the top 5 of the championship he is fighting right now, you know, he could be in for yet another very solid result as Lucas runs wide and picks up the first time penalty of the race. So that's 3 seconds. And Lucas's slim chance of taking the championship fight to Brazil gets ever slimmer. Goes slightly deep on the brakes, wanting to make absolutely sure he didn't risk ram-raiding the back of that Haas, which would certainly end his bid. Flying Finn 21 seconds behind after his pit stop. So in terms of the winners and losers, well, Jarno, Lucas and Seyfrotti all getting free position from the start. And Kinski has dropped like a stone in the ocean all the way down to 9th, and Flying Finn, first lap contact, heavily compromising his race. So your top 10, Schnitzel, Roy, Michael, Jarno, Casper, Lucas, Hugh Golf, Seyfrotti, Kinski and Lee Finley of the 11 starting. No retirements so far on lap 4. This is going to be quite a grueling race for these drivers, especially given the lack of wet weather running. And Jarno is all over the back of Michael. So let's have a look at this. Roy had a bit of a shaky start, but has begun to settle into this race. He's now got a 1.4 second advantage to his reigning champion teammate. So Jarno looking to close the gap onto his teammate. But first he'll have to get past these two Williams. 5.2 second gap between Schnitzel and Roy now. Schnitzel seems to be going almost a second a lap faster. It is amazing pace. I just want to see what the fast laps are. Yeah, I mean, look at that. 1:42.318, the fast lap of the race. The only other driver who's actually got into the 42s is his teammate, Jarno Hoffmann. That just shows you the pace advantage Schnitzel has. And, you know, if it goes like this, when these drivers come to pit, Schnitzel may have a pit stop advantage in hand here. As Jarno continues to put pressure onto Michael. He's looking to make it a 5th podium in a row, and his 6th of the season. But Jarno was certainly one of the title protagonists early on in the season, but you know, the second half of the season form has kind of deserted him since winning the British Grand Prix. 5th at Germany and 4th at Belgium and Italy, and you know, those would be good results for anyone else, but when you're fighting some of the high quality drivers, that run of form will drop you quickly down the order. And right behind that, Lucas is very close to the back of Casper through 130R, but wasn't quite able to make a move at the moment. So we'll go back to Jarno as they head out to start the 6th lap of this race. Nearly 6 second gap now between the top two. Can Jarno look for a move down the inside? What about Lucas? Yeah, oh, Lucas trying to make a move on Casper. But Casper with a late defence, preventing the move. And up ahead, Jarno all over the back of Michael once again, who is struggling for rear grip. They'll have to stretch these tyres out, so if they ruin their tyres and have to make a slightly early pit stop, it will compromise them later. And that will certainly favour Schnitzel, who can, bide his time and simply wait for everyone else to pit, given the advantage he's got. And he's got the kind of gap which also gives him protection from penalties, which are very easy to pick up here, especially through the Degner curves and the final chicane. And this battle for the podium is looking very tasty indeed between the two Williams drivers, Jarno, Casper and Lucas. I mean, the top six have really left the likes of the two Sauberts behind. And Lee Finley, well, he's 1.8 seconds behind Kieske. He'll be trying to look to pass Kieske if he can. With Flying Finn's pace compared to the drivers in 9th and 10th seems to be much superior. He seems to be taking nearly a second a lap out of them. Although Flying Finn will likely have to pit again, because there's no way he's going to be able to take the lap 1 tyres all the way to the end of the race. So may have to rely on a safety car to get into the points. Here comes Jarno. Would he go for a late lunge at the chicane? Is it going to open up? Michael goes very defensive. And look at that, Michael getting a horrible exit, really compromising. Jarno not quite able to take advantage, but Jarno's still got slightly more speed coming out of that final chicane. It's the most important corner on the track in terms of overtaking. If you get it wrong, the speed's going to be compromised. Michael going very defensive. Can Jarno go round the outside in the wet? That would be an audacious move. And right behind, Lucas trying to get past Casper, but can't get ahead. And here we go then, almost side by side through the S-bends, but Michael just about getting ahead, and this is allowing Roy to eke out more of a gap. But at the moment, the two Renault drivers are clearly the fastest drivers on the track, but Casper hanging in there in this battle for the podium. His best result this season is two 5th positions at Belgium and China, and looking to at least match that, but with penalties he could still go on the podium if it stays this close. Stay Frosty getting onto the back now of his Sauber teammate. We may have a look at that later, but we're not going to take our eyes off this action. Battle for 3rd place. Certainly a highlight at the moment. We've got another 20 laps to go here at the Suzuka circuit. Look at that right behind. Casper now putting pressure on Jarno, who's had a pretty horrible section of corners. Didn't do a good job on the exit of Degners, and that dropped him from Michael. And now Casper right on the back of him. So Jarno perhaps getting a little bit hot and bothered under the corner. Oh, Lee Finley has left the session. I wonder if he's decided, well, you know what, I don't fancy doing 27 laps of this race. Heavy rain races like this are not for the faint of heart. That will allow Flying Finn, if Lee Finley indeed didn't just disconnect, to get 10th place. If Lee Finley can rejoin, he may still retain 10th place, but he will lose a bucket of time to Kieske. The Flying Finn picks up a 3-second time penalty to boot. So in terms of the championship battle situation, well, Schnitzel is winning the Season 17 AOR F1 Championship as it stands. Lucas not doing anywhere near enough at the moment to prevent that from happening. There are 2 rounds of the season to go, and Flying Finn is retired. Out of the race goes Flying Finn, so our first retirement of the race. Will that bring out a safety car? That could make things quite interesting. But this is F1 2018, so safety car may be as rare as a dodo at this point. So Jarno trying to get ahead of Michael once again. This looks like a better lap than the previous one. He didn't do the best job on the Degners, which dropped in a little bit. So now, will you think about maybe trying to catch Michael off guard with a lunge at the hairpin? No, not on this occasion. So we have 10 runners. So Schnitzel continues serenely, like a duck through water, extend the gap at the front. 7 seconds now, which in this particular tier is a lifetime. Very rarely see that much of a dominant performance. Somewhat reminiscent of Jarno's victory at the USA last season, where he was just so dominant in those intermediate conditions. So can Jarno finally get ahead of this? Because, realistically, maybe the win's gone, but 2nd place certainly a possibility, because he's clearly got more pace than Michael, and I think he's quicker than Roy as well. But getting ahead of Michael, as we've seen, never an easy task. The reigning champion is not going to give up a place without a fight. Both of them getting decent exits. If anything, maybe closer with Lucas behind. So I may have a switch to him now. Lucas not quite able to get ahead. How slow Michael's getting out of these corners. He's doing a good job of buffering. And an early pit stop then for the Force India. Is that for damage? Let's have a look. Yeah, here comes Kieski. An early pit stop for him. Oh, it's intermediates. Intermediates then for Kieski. Well, that's very interesting. Let's put the tyre map up and we will see if the gap will change at all. I have noticed the rain had gone down slightly, but Kieski, nothing to lose, I guess, in P9, making the early gamble. So let's have a look then at Jarno, who's so close to the back of the Williams now, having a slight look, and this is a great run for him. Will it open up? No, Michael will go very defensive. Lee Finley into the pits as well for intermediates. I don't know if he's actually rejoined the session, but we'll watch the gap for Kieski to see if he actually makes any impression on the Saubers or if he's going to be losing time. Now Jarno trying to get ahead again. Oh, there was nearly a gap. Oh, slight contact, and that's going to force Michael wide. Jarno, I think he probably felt he may have been slightly at fault for that, so he didn't go for the follow-up move, but that's going to allow Casper and Lucas to really close up on him. 130R is a terrifying corner in the dry, but in rain like this, it is even more of a challenge. Almost flat between them. Look at these four heading through the Casio. Look at that, a late lunge at the Casio triangle. And is he going to get the move done? They're going to be side by side out the exit. And yes, he gets it done. And while that's been going on, Lucas has got ahead as well of Casper. Casper may be boxed in by Michael and Jarno's antics and losing a place. As we ride on board with Lucas, that was a superb view through the mist of the battling going on ahead. So finally, Jarno gets ahead of Michael. Up to P3 he goes. Lucas then will be the next driver to try and get ahead of the reigning champion. And meanwhile, the gap between the top two, now 7.6 seconds. Schnitzel's not gaining so much time as he was early in the race, so maybe that's a sign that those wet tyres are starting to heat up a little bit more than they would like to be. Perhaps a sign that we are almost in that intermediate window. Kieski not making much of an impression on the Saubers. In fact, he's losing time, so I don't think we're quite at intermediate conditions yet. But, you know, as I said earlier, the Force India driver didn't really have anything to lose but to try at that point. Seems to have gained a couple of tenths, but it's not exactly, doesn't seem to be a huge difference between the wet and intermediate tyres at the moment. And now Lucas will look for a move on Michael round the outside at the spoon curve. Surely not. He's going to go very late onto the race. And is he going to get it done? Oh, he's gone off track though. And oh, round the outside, he gets in it. Oh, that now. I wonder if race control are going to give him a 5-second penalty. Well, they're not going to, because this is not the Canadian Grand Prix. Casper right behind these two drivers, almost side by side. Michael and Lucas go through 130R. Casper keeping watching brief. He'll be almost thinking cheekily, yep, you two have an instant at 130R and I'll gain 2 positions. Thank you very much. And into the pits comes Jarno. So the first of the leaders to opt for the intermediate tyres, surely. Here comes Jarno then into the pits. Just going to have a quick look. Yeah, Casper, is he going to go for a move on the inside? No, he's not at the moment. And yes, it is intermediate tyres then for Jarno. Did Kieski have the pace? No, Kieski is nowhere near. He's lost more time, if anything. So we'll go straight back to that battle for the podium positions. Lucas now up into P3. Michael really struggling with rear traction once again, and Casper will fancy a little bit of this action. So has Jarno judged that well? Because if he can get a bit of an... Oh, look at that, fast lap from Kieski though, and I think that is an indication we have reached the window, as Casper with a superb move into the Degners, moving up to P4. Michael is really struggling now on these wet tyres, and I think we will see a flurry of pit lane activity very shortly. So Michael dropping down the order, down to P5. So we'll be hoping he's got a bit more pace on the intermediate tyres. Will we get any dry running before the end of the race? That's going to be another question. Few patches of blue sky appearing through the clouds. I don't think we're anywhere near dry conditions, of course. You can see that from the map spray, but we are certainly, I think... Oh, and Michael snap of oversteer, gets it calmed down, but yeah, he nearly had a bit of an accident there. Not a place you would typically have an accident, but such is the treachery of these conditions. He nearly had an off there. That's cost him even more time. So let's have a look at Schnitzel. No, Schnitzel carries on, as does Roy. Lucas, well, let's see, is he going to go into the pits? No. Oh my goodness, Lucas sliding all over the place. No, Michael carries on. So it remains to be seen what sort of impression Jarno will make on the times. We saw that Kieski did the fast lap of the race, so if Jarno, can get these tyres to the end, he may get quite a mighty undercut. He's not going to have much tyre life at the end of the race. That's going to be the thing that will compromise him. So Casper up to P4 now, trying to battle with Lucas. Lucas, well, in terms of the gap to leader, he's now nearly 15 seconds behind Schnitzel, seeing his very slim Tangibin. Oh my goodness, more sliding going on. Casper almost having half a chance of making a move there around the outside into the Degners, which is not a move you would ever really see. But these tyres, oh look at that in the background. Michael went wide, really struggling. Once again, dropping well over a second behind this battle. We may have to think about making a pit stop soon. So Jarno has split the Saubers after that particular pit stop. So we're just waiting for the top 6 to make their pit stop. Of course, in these conditions, no mandatory pit stop, no mandatory tyres. But these tyres, because of the sort of abrasive nature of this track, they will not go the full distance on one stint. So they will be all pitting at least once in this race. And it looks like Lee Finley never got back into the race. So at the moment, the top 9 will be getting points. So realistically, the only way the championship battle will be going to Brazil is if Schnitzel crashes and Lucas wins the race. So that's as simple as it gets. Schnitzel comes in then for a set of intermediates. The Renault pit crew can take their time over it. Now he goes. Here comes Roy as well. It's a fly of pit activity. Now it's going to be Casper for Haas and Lucas for McLaren in a pit lane battle here. They're right next to each other. Let's see who does this better. Jarno setting the fastest lap of the race, and I think that is massively fast, and he's going to easily clear that. And he's well ahead of Roy as well. So Jarno has jumped them all. It's a Renault 1-2 effectively once you go off pit. So that's a brilliant undercut from Jarno, although it may compromise him later. He will not have as good tyre life towards the end of the race, but that won't matter to him at the moment. So Roy is in P4, Lucas in 5th, Casper in 6th. And Michael, after having some nightmare few in-laps, has actually dropped behind Stay Frosty in P8. So Stay Frosty pitting a lap before Michael and actually managed to jump the reigning champion as well. So it's not been an ideal race for the reigning champion, but he'll be hoping he can find a bit more pace. Maybe he adjusted a bit of wing in the pit stop to give him a bit more grip, because he seems to be struggling so much for aerodynamic grip at the moment. It's like he's driving a 2019 Williams. It's been such a struggle for him in the second part of that first stint. There's only one driver remaining to pit, and that is Hugh Golf, who's now running in P2. Although on those old tyres he will soon be caught by Jarno, but maybe you'll think about staying out a little bit longer in the hope of a very rare safety car. So Michael gets a 3-second penalty. So Schnitzel maintaining the gap. Now, because of that early pit stop, Jarno's actually cut into Schnitzel's bunches by quite a bit, and Hugo peels off then. So it is a familiar situation we have here, a Renault 1-2. We saw that a lot early on in the season. Hugo, well, I think he'll likely be 8th place, because I think he's been undercut massively by a lot of the other drivers. So there's not really any on-track battles at the moment. Lucas in P4, 6.2 seconds behind Roy. So it's just going to settle down a bit as they enter this intermediate stint. It's starting to brighten up a little bit more, but it's going to take some time, even if the rain stops now, for the track to dry out. We have no idea if the rain indeed will stop at all. Oh, Lucas running slightly wide on that grass. That was slightly dangerous. Casper is beginning to catch up Lucas, and this battle will continue. It will be a battle for fourth. Hugo for has come out in 9th place, so he'll be trying to get back up to Kiski, who's been on those inters a lot longer than any of the other drivers so far. Jonas on 3 laps on them. So the gap between the top 2, Schnitzel, 6-second gap to Jano, who's now going to play a very effective rear gunner. And Schnitzel, well, he's now a mere 13 laps away from being the season 17 AOR F1 champion. But he knows that any mistakes could swing it back in Lucas's favour. But Lucas, unfortunately, is not in a position at the moment to take advantage. He needs to win this race and hope Schnitzel has some sort of accident, because that is the only way he's going to prevent the championship battle from being over here today. And well, that Ferris wheel is still going in the wet conditions. Kind of pretty scary being up there with the wind battering against the sides of those cages. So I don't think I'd want to be up there, but I suppose you wouldn't get wet, so I guess that's a good thing. So quite large gaps. The field spread is significant at this moment in time, but Casper, 1.5 seconds behind. And Stay Frosty actually showing decent pace on these inters so far, 1.5 seconds behind. Michael 2.2 seconds behind Stay Frosty. And Hugh Golf is beginning to close in on Kiski, so I think we will get a battle for P8 in a few laps' time if this kind of time gain continues for the Sauber driver. So Flying Finn retired from the race early on, and a 3-second time penalty for Casper, so that's unfortunate. And Lee Finley disconnected, so effectively we only have 9 runners at the moment who can score points. So unfortunately not the biggest turnout I've ever seen for one of these races in AOR Tier 1 of PS4. But we've seen some pretty decent action, especially in that first stint, and there's a long way to go, and I think we will see some more battles. Yeah, Hugh Golf is getting very close to Kiski, so let's have a look then at the Sauber drivers. Michael picks up another time penalty. This is turning into an absolute nightmare for the reigning champion. After such a good run in recent times, this would be his lowest point score of the season if he finishes in 7th. And Schnitzel sets another fast lap, but his teammate responds immediately with a fastest lap of his own. So the Renault teammates class of the field so far in these conditions. Roy and Lucas, no answer at all. And Lucas, if anything, is dropping further and further behind Roy. Maybe hoping for a DNF to get onto the podium today, which would be nowhere near enough to keep his very slim championship hopes alive. They were always going to be slim going into this race, but it's looking highly unlikely now. At this moment in time, Schnitzel could actually retire from the race and still be the champion. So Lucas has to win this race. Outscore Schnitzel by 24 points. Schnitzel could even drop all the way down to 9th place and he'd be champion because of his superior win record. So here we go then, a battle building up here between the 4-seater driver of Kiski and Hugh Golf. Kiski had a superb qualifying session, finished 10th last time out in Italy, up against Hugh Golf, who's had a pretty patchy season, I think he would say. 2 7th place point scores, his only points of the season. That was in China and Germany. And he'll be looking to move up to P8 for what at the moment would be a guaranteed 3rd point scored season, but he'll be wanting to get another position at least. Gap between Casper and Lucas is beginning to close a little. Lucas, reminded though, had a 3-second time penalty. Casper does as well. 1.2 second gap now between the 2 drivers in 4th and 5th. So Casper, pace-wise, once again, very, very good job from the Haas driver. Right, Lee Finley left the session showing much more bravery. Oh, and a 5-second penalty for Michael. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen Michael get so. Oh, my goodness. The overseed Hugh Golf have nearly careering him into the back of that Pink Panther car that Kiski is driving. Kiski having to, brake so early. Clearly has struggled in these conditions from the very beginning. So can Hugh Golf make a move and get up to P8? They're going to carry on with this battle. They don't often get this much time on screen, but they're going to get a bit of glory now as the fans who've paid good money to be at this race are getting some good racing action here from further down the top 10. Whoa, is he going to try and move round the outside through the S-bends? Kiski desperately trying to hold on to this position. Even 9th place would be Kiski's best result of the season. Through the Degners they go. Kiski almost running onto the gravel. One of those old school tracks that still has plenty of gravel traps. Hugo having a look. Doing exactly what he wants to do, trying to put Kiski under pressure, making a mistake. They now run up through 200R, then heading towards the spoon curve. Hugo will be trying to build this up for an attack, perhaps into the chicane, and certainly on the main straight. He is right behind him now. Can Kiski get onto the power? He does indeed. Jarno sets a fast lap. He's now put the gap under 6 seconds though, but it's not getting quite enough. Here comes Hugh Golf then. As Michael picks up another 5-second time penalty. What on earth is going on? This is the patchiest performance I've ever seen from the reigning champion. He won so many races last season by not getting any penalties. Now, well, goodness me, with that many penalties, he may not even finish any higher than 9th, even with Kiski being 10 seconds behind. Keeping an eye on those time gaps, but there's no other real battles at the moment, so we're going to keep an eye on this one. This is bread and butter stuff in F1. It's not always about the leaders. You want to see good midfield action as well. Hugo certainly in the mood to consume some Pink Panther and get that 8th position. As Kiski doesn't take a very ideal line through the Dunlop curve. Now he's going to be compromised with the Dunlop corners. Sorry, the Degners curves, I should say. Kiski, slap of oversteer to goes onto the power. Nothing on towards it. Oh, and Hugo going for half a lunge from far back, but he was never on. So I think it was more of a, hello, I'm going to fill your mirrors lap after lap until you make a mistake, sunshine. So here comes Hugo. Can he go for a move into the spoon curve? It's a gap. Oh, he had half a look. Oh, Kiski's run wide. He was trying to force an error, and that's exactly what happened. There's going to be slight contact between the two, and I think Hugo is going to get this move done. Kiski got a penalty, and that was really smart driving from Hugo. He was making all these half moves, these lunges, just to put Kiski off, and it works perfectly. As Lucas is now finding some pace, 2 fastest laps in a row. Is that an indication that the track's getting ever faster? But I don't think we're going to get any dry running before the end of the race. I'd be surprised if we do. I mean, at best, it will be on the last lap. But here we go then. Hugo then moving up to P8. And also, and it's a time penalty. And is this going to be another set of inters? Oh, that would explain his lack of pace. Another damaged wing for him. So he must have had an off somewhere. Perhaps when he had his early laps when it wasn't ready for inters. So the Force India driver, though, if he just finishes, he will be getting his best result of the season. So, you know, he'll have to remember that. But yeah, any chance of going any further than 9th position, all but gone. So let's have a quick look then at Tyrrell Schnitzel. What a magnificent performance it's been so far. In terms of the gap, a dominant performance in qualifying. Class of the field with that Banzai lap, and we thought maybe he had a very dry setup, but clearly the setup that he's got perfectly suited whatever the conditions. He's now eked out the gap to over 6 seconds again. I think that's because Jarno's been on those tyres a little bit longer. Snits across the line at 1:38.479, and Roy now gets a 5-second penalty for Roy. He has gone over the Castillo triangle and he got 8 seconds of penalties there. And that will be added on the end. That may give Lucas a chance to get onto the podium. Let's have a look at Michael for a second. He's really struggled. I mean, the Williams drivers have got so many penalties between them. I mean, these wet conditions have not suited them at all. No real battles at the moment. So it may be a case of watching out for mistakes affecting the final finishing order. I mentioned for Casper once again, he's on course for another really good result. He's one of only 4 drivers, to correct myself from earlier, to have a point score at every single race this season. And he will, more or less, he will seal 6th place in the championship. with this result if he finishes where he is, which I think is a really solid effort from him. It's obviously not the quickest driver in this league, but you know he's put together a really good set of results, almost like the Nico Hulkenberg of the league this season. Just no nonsense fashion, just grabbing good results every race. Without ever actually being on the podium, although he did come close at Belgium in particular. Schnitzel goes that little bit faster. So I wonder if Lucas actually listens to the stream. Perhaps he has heard about the penalties, because he has upped his pace a bit. He's now got 6.5 seconds to Roy, which will probably be enough to put him on the podium. Dave Frosty picks up another time penalty. But Lucas again not doing enough. Races, it's a bit of an anti-climax for the title battle, unfortunately. As Lucas heads through for the 21st time through the opening S-bends. So let's enjoy this orange McLaren flying through these corners. But Lucas, well, I think he'll be in pragmatic mood after this race. I think he knew coming into this race that the chances of him keeping his title bid alive were almost impossible. They certainly figured out their way. Dave Frosty is actually beginning to close the gap to Casper, so you can see a battle between them in the closing laps. So your top 9 at this point: Schnitzel and Jarno, Roy, Lucas, Casper, Dave Frosty, Michael, Hugh Golf and Kieski. In terms of the pit stops, well, 2 stops for Kieski, not including Lee Findlay because he actually disconnected. Or rage quit, whatever it was. Everyone has made their pit stop. There's a slight question mark over Jarno's tyres, but I think he should reach the end of the race. And look at that, the rain has actually stopped. Now that is interesting, the rain has actually stopped. Are we going to get some dry running? We've still got quite a few laps to go. So will we get some dry running before the end of the race? Well, we'll get an indication of that when the times begin to tumble. But at the moment, the fast lap of the race is the 1:38.413 from Schnitzel. He went over the line just now, didn't go any faster. Let's have a quick look at Michael. As the conditions get drier, that may favour the likes of Roy and Michael, who tend to run better in the dry conditions. He's beginning to close the gap to Dave Frosty, starting to find some pace again. He's picked up so many penalties, and those 5-second stop-go penalties, that'll really hurt him when he has to pit later on. So those mistakes of the Casio Triangle, which is, I believe, really the only place you can get those penalties, that will really hurt him later. You know, Michael has no chance of getting on the podium regardless of his pace with the dry tyres, if indeed he gets a chance to put them on. Michael trying to restore some pride here, trying to catch up to Dave Frosty, who in understated fashion has actually had a pretty impressive race. P6, head of the reigning champion at the moment. I think he'd be pretty pleased if he finishes ahead of them. He's only 2 seconds off Casper up ahead, so he's not that far off. Yeah, the top 5 position. In terms of his results this season, he had a really good Australian Grand Prix, finished 4th, then he followed up with 2 more point scores. Then after that it's a bit patchy, didn't turn up to some races, and then a 9th at the British Grand Prix, and then 8th last time out in Italy. So kind of like Casper, when he does race, he normally does get a solid points in the lower order of the top 10. So no indication of race control that the DRS is going to be disabled yet, as we see Jarno heading for lap 23. Or if he gets dry conditions in the closing laps, well, that could give something. But there's still quite a lot of spray coming off the tyres, which is usually a good indication whether we're going to get dry running. But at this stage, it may be worth just staying out anyway, because I don't think we're going to get any solid dry running. It may be right at the death on the final lap of the way it's going, but you know, perhaps with more cars on the track, it would dry the track a little bit faster, but that's not the case at the moment. Let's have a look at Michael then, because Michael is again closing the gap to Dave Frosty. It's in visual range now of the Sauber. Michael may not finish where he is because of all those penalties he's got, but he'll be thinking, well, can I at least get past this Sauber? One more race after this for the reigning champion. enjoy as the champion before he hands over his crown, seemingly to TR Schnitzel, who's just a few laps away from being crowned the champion. And although the race itself is unlikely to live long in the memory, despite the good battles we saw early on in the race, it will certainly live long in the memory for TR Schnitzel as a moment he was crowned the Season 17 champion. Well, I don't think I'm going to be giving that as a commentary curse because Schnitzel has been supreme in this race. A Rainmeister so far. And even Jarno, who in his own right is very good in these conditions, as we've seen in the past, has not been able to match his teammate, but of course he was compromised by qualifying, which put him further down the grid. So in terms of the winners and losers, 5 places gained for Jarno and Lucas, 5 for Stave Frosty as well. So a good day's work for them. Roy has lost 1. And I think in terms of the top runners, Michael's probably had the worst race of the lot. See who else is out there. So Michael continues in vain to catch up Stave Frosty because of the penalties he's got. Track is getting ever drier though. It's less and less spray. We're on lap 24 and Schnitzel will probably be hoping, well, let's try and get this race done as quickly as possible so we don't have to do another pit stop and risk something. Can you imagine if Schnitzel pitted and had the kind of problems that we saw with Lucas last season? I think those in the audience would be absolutely losing their minds if that were to happen, especially if it favoured Lucas getting the championship battle to another round. Schnitzel from the very beginning has looked so focused. Seems to have a better sector 2 than Stave Frosty, but can't seem to close in on sector 3. Oh my goodness, once again, the back end stepping out. There's been something fundamentally wrong with the setup of that rear of that car the whole race. And that's what's really cost them. Just think if Michael keeps pushing like this, he's going to have a huge off of 130R at some points. But despite that, he's actually come back close as we've seen so far. No indication yet that we're going to get any dry running in the final 3 laps of this race. So we're going to have a quick look at TR Schnitzel. We haven't seen much of him in this race, and neither has the opposition. From the word go, he was absolutely gone. He's just extending the gap more and more. Schnitzel's pace has been absolutely brilliant throughout. And Jarno, well, he's been on those intermediates longer than anyone else, and his pace has definitely faded off. He's backing off now. Maybe under team orders, just to ensure Schnitzel has a comfortable ride to the flag. But Jarno, he'll be picking up a solid second place. It'll be his first podium since winning the British Grand Prix in round 5. So I think a good return form for him. And well, for Roy, it'll be his 3rd podium in a row. He won at Belgium, 3rd place at Monza. Looks like he's going to get another 3rd place here today. Although with the penalties and Lucas closing in on him, he may not get it. So Lucas may yet finish on the podium with the 2 Renaults. He doesn't pick up any more time penalties. So Schnitzel then crosses the line then for the penultimate lap. He's got just this one, and then 1 more to go before he is crowned the Season 17 champion. He's now got a near 10-second gap to his teammate, who seems to be really struggling on the tyres now. Roy is getting closer, Lucas as well. But they're going to run out of laps, I think, before they reach him. And besides, Roy has many more time penalties, which will be added on at the end of the race. I mean, who knows where Michael will finish. Michael's still unable to get onto the back of Stave Frosty to even challenge for an on-track overtake, let alone make up for that loss of penalties. Roy looks a bit quicker than Jarno at the moment. Will we get a last lap battle for P2 between these two? Through the Degans he goes for the penultimate time for this Japanese Grand Prix. The penultimate round of the F1 2018 era on Apex Online Racing for F1 on PS4. Yeah, 2.5 seconds now. I think Jarno is really starting to struggle on these tyres. He's done more or less half a race on this particular set. That is certainly beginning to have an effect on him, but he'll be hoping he can get to the end. He'll be praying he doesn't get a puncture of some kind. he heads through the spoon curve. Sometimes you look at the movement of the tyres and you think, oh god, was that a puncture? But no, I think he should be just about all right. I don't think Roy's going to be able to catch him. And here we go then. Schnitzel begins the final lap of the race, and we are definitely not going to get any dry running. I think DRS might be enabled just as they get to the end of this lap, judging by the track conditions. The spray's just about gone. And Schnitzel, well, he can relax and enjoy this. Probably didn't expect in his wildest dreams for it to be this comfortable, but it's worked out this way. Heading through the opening section of the track through these S-bends, he'll be enjoying every second of this. It's been a roller coaster ride for him in recent seasons, but he is on course to winning the championship. We'll just have a quick look at Roy. He's now within 2 seconds. He may catch Jarno by the end of the lap. Back to Jarno then. And Michael actually pits. So, huge lots of time penalties. And that completes a miserable day. Onto the softs he goes, but perhaps he forgot that it's the last lap of the race. So he's not going to be able to set a fastest lap. But that completes a miserable afternoon for the Williams driver. And Schnitzel then heading through the spoon curve for the last time. The crowd begin to rise in appreciation, and I tell you what, Roy is right on the back of Jarno. We may see a fight between them, but we're going to stick on board with the champion-elect. Because here comes TRL Schnitzel. And what a season he's had. He won in Australia, he won in Bahrain, he won in Germany, he won in Monza. He goes through the chicane for the last time. He's going to win at Japan. Bang bang, the king is dead. Long live the king. TRL Schnitzel is your season 17 AOR F1 champion. Magnificent. Absolutely magnificent. And we'll go straight back because Jarno and Roy are going to head for the line. But I think penalties, Jarno should get it. And he does. And will Lucas finish on the podium? And he does. Lucas gets a podium for his efforts in the end. By, whoa, just under 1.5 tenths of a second. Roy will be absolutely kicking himself for that mistake at the Cassidy triangle, which just cost him a podium. Let's go on board with TRL Schnitzel. Well, an absolutely perfect professional display here to win the championship. Could not have gone any better for him. He got pole position, he stayed there, and he took the checkered flag to win the championship for a thoroughly deserved 5th win of the season and an equally thoroughly deserved season 17 crown. And he will be the final F1 champion of the F1 2018 era, and he can enjoy himself in Brazil with the pressure entirely off as Michael finally crosses the line in P8. But what can you say about Renault? Another 1-2. Schnitzel and Jarno have been unstoppable, but this man in particular, at times Schnitzel has been near invincible this season, taking the victory and the championship with a race to spare. And they'll be celebrating this long into the night in the Renault garage. The Constructors' Championship last week, but now the Drivers' Championship is over. It is Schnitzel who sprays the champagne on the podium to celebrate his championship glory in season 17. Well, we'll get the confirmed results after this race as the podium continues to celebrate. I think Lucas will be pretty pleased with that 3rd place, but perhaps slightly disheartened. He couldn't put more pressure on Schnitzel in this championship battle here today. Schnitzel takes the victory then by 11.7 seconds from his teammate Jarno. And then Lucas taking the podium with less penalties, 8 seconds of penalties for Roy in 4th. Casper with another excellent result for Haas in 5th, equaling his best result of the season. Stave Frosty in 6th with his best result of the season outside of the Australian Grand Prix. Hugh Golf in P7, equaling his best results this season. Michael in a desperately disappointing P8. It was a race to forget for him, and he'll be wanting to get out of Japan as quickly as possible. And Kieski finishing in P9, didn't have much pace, but finished the race. Unlike Lee Finley, who suffered a transmission failure, and Flying Finn retiring the Ferrari car. Well, as we mentioned earlier, it was certainly not a race to remember. But there is one man in particular who will be absolutely delighted, and that is TRL Snitzel. A magnificent season he's had. Victories at Australia, Bahrain, Germany, Monza and Japan, but he is now the champion. And well, up next for us in this particular league is one final race, the final race of the AOR F1 era on F1 2018. And yes, both championships are now decided, but it should be an excellent exhibition race as some of the best drivers in AOR go about their stuff to try and end the season on a high. And they will be live at Interlagos at your usual time of 7 o'clock next week. Well, once again, a big thank you to everyone who's watched in the chat, and big congratulations once again to Tyrell Snitzel on his championship victory here today in Season 17. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.